Hello, dear students. Once again, welcome to our English class. My name is Tatyana Butorac, and I will be your teacher today. The topic of today's lesson is education. This is also the title of our lesson. This lesson is for grade 8. I truly hope you enjoy the time we spend together today. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to name various idioms regarding the topic education. You will also be able to understand the text about education by listening to it. For today's lesson, you will need a notebook, a pen or pencil, a laptop, a tablet, or a mobile phone, and strong internet connection. Bear in mind, you can pause this video lesson whenever you need to do so, or you can play it again whenever you find it necessary. Work at your own pace. Children, are you ready to begin? All right, now let's start our class. Please look at the pictures. Who are these ladies? Have you ever seen their pictures before? Maybe in textbooks or on television, perhaps. Think for a moment. That's right. The lady in the first picture is Helen Keller, and the lady in the second picture is Maria Montessori. Now, what did these ladies do? Do you know? Correct. Among other things, these ladies were important educators. Dear students, here I have some quotes about education and the power of learning. I personally find them truly inspiring. Let's read them. Here is the first one. It is by Malcolm X. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. What do you think of the second one? It is by Aristotle. The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. Here's one more. Education is too important to be left solely to educators. It is by Francis Keppel. And the last one, maybe my favorite one, is by Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. What do you think of these quotes? Do they inspire you? Could they help you when studying? Why don't you find some more and make a poster with them? You can put them on your wall and then read them when you need some form of inspiration. Now, dear students, we're going to do some writing. I would like you to pause the video lesson. Please copy this question in your notebooks. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about education? There are many things. Let's see what you can think of. Please write your thoughts in your notebooks. Now let's see what you have written. Education system, that's what you think of? All right. What else? Elementary schools, high schools. Exactly. Anything else? That's right. Universities as well. What's next? Grades. Yes, of course. I would think of that as well. Anything else? Manners. Yes, that is also an important part of education. Have you got anything else written in your notebooks? Excellent. Education is a lifelong process. I must say that you have written down some great ideas. Excellent work. I personally like the one that refers to education being seen as a lifelong process. Dear students, you've been going to school now for 8 years. I'm sure that you've heard the word education many times. At home, at school. Have you ever thought where the word education is derived from? To derive means to stem from or to originate. Please pause the video lesson. Think for a moment. Do some research. And then write in your notebooks the origin of the word education. Now let's see. Have we got the same answer? Well, according to certain linguists, the word education derived from the Latin term educatum, which means the act of teaching or training. Other linguists say that this word came from another Latin word, educare, which means to bring up or to raise. As you can see, education is not only about learning, it is a much more complex process. Now, children, I need you to pause the video lesson one more time. Please think for a moment. Answer my question. Does education refer only to the period in life that we spend at school or at college or university? What are your thoughts? I'm sure you have some interesting answers. My students always do. Now let's see. What is your opinion? I agree completely. Education is definitely the basis of life. The purpose of education is not just to study or learn, it is to grow, to constantly learn, and to evolve. It is definitely not only about earning a degree at school, but it is a lifelong process of improving your knowledge, your skills, and competences. As we have already mentioned, it is a very complex process and a very important one as well. Dear students, I would like you to meet Janine. Janine is the girl in the picture. She is your peer. Here's what she has to say about studying. Please pause the video lesson and read what she has written. Now let's read together. Once summer is over, it's time to hit the books again. I don't have problems studying. In fact, I ace almost every test I take. My classmates and I enjoy working on school projects. That's when we put our heads together and come up with some great ideas. However, there have been occasions when I've pulled an all-nighter. That was when I didn't start preparing for my exams on time. I must admit that my parents warned me that if I didn't begin studying on time, I would find myself in a situation where I'd have to burn the midnight oil. Luckily, this has rarely happened. Unlike my older siblings, I have never bombed a test or drawn a blank when being asked something by a teacher. And one more thing. My parents strictly told me not to play hooky, ever. Of course, they said the same thing to my big brother. Unfortunately, he did cut class and got into trouble because of it as well. Dear students, you probably noticed that some of the expressions in Janine's text were bolded, or better to say, some of the idioms were bolded. Here we have the idioms written in the left column. To hit the books, to ace a test, to put your heads together, to pull an all-nighter, to bomb a test, to burn the midnight oil, to draw a blank, to play hooky. In the right column, we have the explanations of the idioms. Please pause the video lesson, copy the idioms in your notebooks, and match them to their correct explanations. You can read Janine's text once again if you need some extra help understanding the idioms and matching them to their correct explanations. Now let's get down to work. All right, now let's see what you have written. Number 1, to hit the books. What is the correct explanation? Correct. To begin to study in a serious and determined way. Prihvatiti se učenja. Number 2, to ace a test. Correct. To achieve high marks. Dobiti jako dobre ocjene. Ili dobro napisati test. What about number 3? To put your heads together. Correct. To plan or create together. Dakle, nešto planirati ili zajedno stvoriti. And number 4, to pull an all-nighter. That's right. To spend all night studying. Provesti cijelu noć učeći. What about number 5? To bomb a test. Excellent. To flunk a test or not pass a test. Dakle, napisati loše test, to jest dobiti jedinicu ili ne proći. And number 6, to burn the midnight oil. Exactly. To stay awake late at night to work or study. Dakle, ostati dugo budan noću kako bi učio ili nešto napravio, to jest radio. And number 7, to draw a blank. Exactly. To fail to remember something. Ne moći ili ne uspjevati nešto zapamtiti. And the last one, number 8, to play hooky. Yes, to stay away from school without permission. Markirati. Here you have the answers once again. 1H, 2C, 3F, 4B, 5D, 6E, 7G, 8A. Congratulations, children. You've done a great job once again. All right, children, I have some more idioms for you. Please pause the video lesson. Look at the 4 sentences. Read them carefully. Pay special attention to the idioms that are bolded. Think for a moment. Are these idioms used only when talking about learning, school, or studying? What is your opinion? Let's read the sentences together. Ready? Sentence number 1. I won't do it again. I've learned my lesson. Does this mean that a person has learned a lesson from a textbook, maybe? Let's check. No. This means that it is unlikely to do something foolish again. Dakle, mala je vjerojatnost da će netko nešto napraviti nepotrebno ili loše, ili možda glupo. What about sentence number 2? His behavior is terrible. Someone needs to teach him a lesson. Does this mean that a teacher needs to teach a student a lesson in class, maybe? Let's see. No. It means to show someone what should not be done in the future. Dakle, uputiti ili upozoriti nekoga što ne bi trebao napraviti u buduće. And what about the third sentence? It took the new employee several weeks to learn the ropes. Does this mean that the employee needed to learn how to work with ropes, how to tie them maybe? Definitely not. This means to learn how a particular job or task is done. Naučiti kako se određeni posao ili zadatak radi. And the last sentence? My friend is 25 years old, but he is old school when it comes to fashion and music. Does this maybe mean that this person is An old school regarding fashion and music? Let's see. Of course not. This is something close to old-fashioned and traditional, but it has a positive meaning. In Croatian, we also say old school or stara škola. Now, children, please copy these sentences and the explanations of the idioms in your notebooks. Once again, you've done a great job. Congratulations. And now, children, you will hear two short texts about one female and one male educator. Please pause the video lesson and copy the questions in your notebooks. Answer them after listening to the text. The first educator is Gabriela Mistral, and the questions referring to her are the following. Number 1. Was Gabriela Mistral the educator's real name? Number 2. Did she receive the Nobel Prize in Peace? Number 3. What did her poetry make her a symbol of? The questions referring to Booker T. Washington are the following. Number 1. Was Booker T. Washington born as a slave? Number 2. When was he the most influential spokesperson for Black Americans? Number 3. What did he secure funds and donations for? Here are the pictures of Gabriela Mistral and Booker T. Washington. Once you've copied the questions, listen to the recording carefully and then answer the questions. Ready? Now let's start.
Gabriela Mistral. Gabriela Mistral was the pseudonym of Lucila Godoy Alcayaga, a Chilean poet, educator, feminist, and diplomat. In 1945, she was the first Latin American to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature for her lyric poetry. Her poetry made her the symbol of the struggle the Latin American people underwent to reach their idealistic goals. Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington is one of the most famous black educators of all time. He became one of the founders and very first presidents of the now Tuskegee University, even though he was born into slavery. He was the most influential spokesperson for black Americans between 1895 and 1915. For years, he also worked hard securing funds and donations to create schools and programs for black American students.
Dear students, I'm sure you did a good job. Let's check your answers. Here are the answers to the questions referring to Gabriela Mistral. Number 1. Was Gabriela Mistral the educator's real name? No, it wasn't. It was her pseudonym. Number 2. Did she receive the Nobel Prize in Peace? No, she didn't. She received the Nobel Prize in Literature. And number 3. What did her poetry make her a symbol of? Her poetry made her the symbol of the struggle the Latin American people went through to reach their goals. Excellent. And what about the answers to the questions referring to Booker T. Washington? Let's see. Question number 1. Was Booker T. Washington born as a slave? Yes, he was. Number 2. When was he the most influential spokesperson for Black Americans? Booker T. Washington was the most influential spokesperson for Black Americans between 1895 and 1915. And the last question, number 3, what did he secure funds and donations for? He secured funds and donations to create schools and programs for Black American students. Excellent, children. Well done. And now, children, it's your turn. The time has come for you to choose either Helen Keller or Maria Montessori, the two famous educators mentioned at the beginning of our lesson. Please write about their lives, work, and goals. Then read your composition to your teacher and classmates. But don't forget to explain why you chose that particular educator. And now, children, it's time to reflect. Please think of 3 things that stuck with you after today's lesson. Think of 2 questions you still might have, and think of 1 thing you have learned. I would like to end this lesson with a quote by G.K. Chesterton. Education is simply the soul of a society as it passes from one generation to another. This is the end of today's lesson. Until we meet again, stay safe, take care. Goodbye.